Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. And before I get started, at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week. So in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. Now, I am a little under the weather, so I'm sorry about that. Bear with me. I do have a smallish haul with 10 books this week, and number 10 for me is the topic of the video, The Amazing Spider-Man issue 69. It's the penultimate before the new and improved run of Amazing Spider-Man, which is pretty much the same exact team as this run of Amazing Spider-Man. And this one, honestly, was so interesting because I just had read X Factor, and then I was like doing something and I hadn't read another comic in like 5 minutes after, and I pick up to the first page of Spider-Man. I'm like, so this is an X-Men book. And then I realize and go back, I'm like, no, this is just a Spider-Man book. So, that already kind of whips you into shape a little bit there. And Spider-Man doesn't really show up until the last like 5 pages of this book. Mostly it's about the villains. You get a little X-Men here. And I am not a huge fan of these villains. They just don't interest me that much. I'm not a big fan of, honestly, the deaths of Spider-Man aspect. I feel like there's just no weight to it. And then in the end of the issue, Spider-Man becomes Juggernaut, because why not? I don't really feel like there was really any lead into it. I don't think there's any reason. I mean, I guess it's a cool design, but past that, it's just him being Juggernaut. I just feel like the series in this arc in particular has lost its way completely, where it just kind of doesn't really tackle what we enjoy about Peter Parker and his struggles. There's not much Spider-Man in the issue, and when he is Spider-Man, there's kind of this X-Men angle that doesn't really quite make sense. And I want to say an example of when these mashups do well is something like Uncanny Nightcrawler, the Uncanny Spider-Man book, where it made sense for why Nightcrawler was trying to be Spider-Man. There was a thematic reason why he was doing it and the whole sense of responsibility. Here, it's just like, wouldn't it be cool if Spider-Man was Juggernaut? So I just, I like the art, but I just don't really quite see the vision here. So giving that 1.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Black Lightning issue 5, a surprise ending. I thought this was going to be an ongoing series, and I just felt like this never really met its potential, and that was a little frustrating with this book, because I think there's so many great character-driven stories that could be told with this family. There's some interesting supporting characters that are attached to this family, and I just don't feel like it really got into those character beats as far as they could have, and then it kind of ends on a simmer. So overall, giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. Oh, that's 2 stars, actually. Moving on to number 8, which is Dark Pyramid issue 1, a book I was interested in because of the concept, this person going up into the mountains, climbing them, and then disappears, and his girlfriend has to find him. I think the big key that was missing here was that emotional pull. The characters just didn't pull me through the story, even though the mystery is interesting enough. This guy gets lost in the mountains, he's a vlogger, cool, but I just felt like the girlfriend character and even the main character just there wasn't enough meat for them for me to want to get that next issue. So overall, giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Aquaman issue 3, is very heavy on the Aquaman mythos, and for me, I'm not actually a huge Aquaman fan, so I feel like the Aquaman fans who are loyal to the character will enjoy this issue a little bit more. I still want to see the arc through. I still really love Jeremy Adams' writing. I like the Aquaman family, and I want to see more of them, but the actual mythos behind it isn't as interesting. But things I liked about this issue, I love the beginning and ending with Arthur as just a kid. I thought that was interesting, and I liked the random Superman ex-girlfriend mermaid character that shows up and making her feel more than just a joke character. So I like that, and I think there's elements that I enjoyed as like a non-Aquaman fan for this run, but I still think this is for Aquaman fans and not really new readers. So we'll see as the series goes on. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Green Lantern Corps issue 2. This is definitely more of a John Stewart book. If you love the Justice League series, I think you're going to enjoy this. There's some really interesting back and forth between Hawkgirl and John in particular. I even like the Sorrow story. I like how that's connected to Green Lantern in particular. The thing that brings this down for me is the art, honestly. I just think the palette's really dark for the type of book it is and really gritty for the type of book it is, and it kind of takes me out of the story. So overall, giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Deadpool issue 12. This is an interesting series because the crossover element is what I really like. I love seeing Miles and Deadpool's daughter interacting. I think they have a really fun interplay. But the villains, I can't really connect to them as much. Maybe they're Spider-Man villains, I don't know, but I just can't get into the main plot. But luckily, I like everything surrounding it. I just enjoy these characters interacting with each other, even if the threat is not as threatening. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Absolute Superman issue 5, a little lower than it usually is, but mostly because it is a point A to point B. It's Superman looking at his past and seeing how Krypton exploded, how that's different than our regular universe, and then him leading into Smallville by the end. I'm very curious to see what this version of Smallville looks like, but yeah, this is a point A to point B. It's cool to see the origin story, but I don't really feel like it progressed the story that much. I like the artwork, I like the emotion in this one. I just wanted a little bit more because the other issues gave me so much more. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is the perfect jumping on point for Rogue Sun. Rogue Sun issue 25. I really liked how new reader-friendly this was. I feel like it explained a lot of what was happening in the past, and it felt like a new, fresh step as our main character is kind of kicked out of his role of Rogue Sun, even though everyone's like, no, you're not. But the sister is like, yeah, I guess I'll be Rogue Sun. And there's some mythos stuff that's behind it. You know, is she Rogue Sun? Is he Rogue Sun? That I enjoyed, and I liked, again, this idea of him not knowing really where he belongs, even from a where he should live standpoint, and how that's connected to his mom. I just feel like it went back to character and really allowed the mythos to expand on those characters, which is what I liked about Rogue Sun in the first place. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is X Factor issue 8. I really like this as an X Factor issue. I like seeing Havoc versus Cyclops. I can't believe we're up to part 5 of X-Manhunt though, because I just read part 1 last week, Uncanny X-Men, and I was like, okay, let's see where it goes. And you have to read every single X-Men book to see where it goes, and I'm not reading every X-Men book. I don't know if I feel that obliged to read every X-Men book. So to be in week 2 and this to be part 5 already, and also kind of feel like the story hasn't really gone anywhere, is a little deterring. But the X Factor part I really loved, and I actually think that this book did a really good job at meshing the X-Manhunt stuff without it sacrificing what's been going on in X Factor. The artwork is splendid by Bob Quinn, and I just like the emotional, impact here. Again, you have the crossover element with Cyclops and Havoc, but then you also have Havoc just dealing with the pressures of losing people, especially Polaris as the series has been going on. So I think it did a good job with its crossover element, even though I don't know if the crossover itself is as strong as it could be. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, it tends to be my pick of the week all the time because I love this book, and that's Snotgirl issue 19. This was an interesting issue where we get a little bit more information about how the hell Caroline and her brother are still living, and if they are like vampires of some sort. Now we get the information it probably has to do with Y2K, and we don't get the full explanation of what's going on here, but I have a feeling that next issue is going to be that big exploding moment. And we get a little bit of Caroline and Lottie's relationship and how Lottie feels about Caroline, but mostly it is outside of them and more about the mythos behind Snotgirl, which I like. I do like the character moments a little bit more, but I also like the references to old school internet social media, like blogs. I thought that was a really interesting thing, especially because this book had such a long hiatus. The internet has changed so much. So we had the blogging of the 1990s, but then when this started, it was really more Instagram heavy and more about taking pictures. And now this new version of Snotgirl has to do with TikTok and Reels. And I find that really fascinating about the book. But yeah, really curious to see where it's going to go. I thought this was an interesting issue from a mythos standpoint. And I just love this book, and I love the series and love learning more about it. So giving that 4 stars, and that's my pick of the week. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And next week I'll have the viewers pick of the week because I wasn't here last week. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.